the day we have remained closer to falling in love. I wanna hold you every night through the thunder and the sunshine. I wanna feel your arms so tight around my heart tonight. Waiting all my damn life, taking every chance to show you I'm right. Past the fading tears, hold me tight and tell me I'll be alright. Taking over the sun, 'cause you are the one to shoot me in the heart. And I'll be challenging kings for the power to bring love back to the sun. I wanna hold you every night through the thunder and the sunshine. I wanna feel your arms so tight around my heart tonight. Waiting all my damn life, taking every chance to show you I'm right. Past the fading tears, hold me tight and tell me I'll be alright. Hold me tight and tell me I'll be alright.
bit. Testing my mic. Sounds like we're coming through. If there are any technical difficulties, you guys will have to give me a bit of a pass. It is my first time with streaming YouTube and stuff, but you know, either way, I'm super excited to do a bit of a stream here, talk about the LCS, talk about playoffs, talk about what happened yesterday. It's all pretty excited, pretty hype stuff. Should be about an hour-long stream here. Shouldn't be too long. I have some stuff planned, but you know, obviously I'm used to the shorter form factor videos, so the you know, like the 10 to 15 minutes is really my sweet spot in terms of what I'm used to doing with content. But so just to get into things, why don't I slip on to the next song, turn that down a little bit. So just to get into things right now, I wanted to kind of recap what happened yesterday, what happened the previous week. You know, because obviously our last video kind of left off in terms of, you know, talking about this week. Kind of more or less expected results in terms of the playoffs and where the LCS is actually at. Looks like I need to turn my music up a little bit. We'll do that. So, you know, we went into this weekend, and I think a lot of people had this idea, like, you know, EG is probably the better team, but I don't think people were ready for just how much further ahead EG were over Dignitas. And actually what I should have done was pull up the VOD highlights, because I wanted to take a look and kind of show you guys some moments in that series that I thought were meaningful. Dignitas obviously was able to take, I believe they won Game 3. So let's go back and look at Game 3 here. We'll look at some of the highlights to this match. Obviously, first we can talk about the draft. Was this the game where they did a bunch of role swaps? Hold on. Oh yeah, this is definitely one of the games with the weird draft. Hold on. Let me check and see. I wanted to find the one that they won. Looks like it might have been Game 2. Okay, I'll go back. Take a look at Game 2. Oh no, here we are. All games. Okay, so we can go back through and look through this replay just a little bit. So there's all games. This will be Game 1, this will be Game 2. I'm pretty sure they won Game 2. Kind of an interesting draft from EG here. This was, I believe, the only time in this series, let me double check on that EG decided to go for the Azir. Just checking. Yeah, so, you know, EG go for the Azir in this game, and to be honest, it looked a little bit odd from me, from my perspective. I was not, you know, crazy about the Azir. I'm not crazy about the champion in general, but that's more of a personal philosophy that I have with the game. You know, at different stages of, at different levels. You know, even these teams that are, you know, that have these Azir players that are ridiculously talented, that basically like one trick Azir, like, you know, you think of like some of these very mechanically skilled, you know, like these Korean mid laners, that really have the perfect grasp on every single level of the game. Obviously, Azir is a very mechanical champ. Like, if you have a player like PoE, Power of Evil, for example, that's a guy that I might consider drafting Azir for. But I think in the current meta, regardless of whether or not you can pilot him and you can make him work, I think in the current meta, Azir just looks so weak. He very rarely looks strong. And even in the LCK, the Azir pick rate might be a little bit higher there, but it's still not a champion that is seeing a lot of success in general. And you know, when you look at these drafts, you can see the things that EG decide to fall back on and that work. So, you know, you have this Thresh Varus thing that they did multiple times. You know, you got like the Lee Sin in there as well. This team, like, I mean, I love this Game 1 draft from them. I think it's absolutely fantastic. You know, Set and Lee Sin can kind of go in and can kind of be the front line. And really, EG did not give Dignitas any kind of leeway in this game whatsoever. I mean, it's a 28-minute game. It was very, you know, quick and simple, like, ball out in your lanes. You gave TF to Jizuke. It's a champ that, you know, he can roam and make things happen on. I love this look from them. And then what was weird to me is that, like, yeah, they get the Varus, you know, they get the Gnar Renekton matchup, which to my knowledge is very very good for Gnar. But at the same time, like this draft looked a little wonky to me. Maybe they were trying something, and honestly, for if you're a team like EG, with where EG is in the standings right now, and you know, with where they finished in the group stage, like we can take a look at that. EG ended up like almost all the way up there, and you could look at their summer record, and EG was basically top 1, if not top 2. I would argue top 1. I think they're the best team in the summer split. They are slated to win the LCS championship. So what they're doing right now is really really smart, where, you know, we won game 1. We know that we're a much better team from these guys. Why don't we try some things? Why don't we give a couple different looks just to see how things feel? That's what I guess was happening here. You know, and then obviously in this game it didn't quite work out for them. We can go ahead and watch the highlights, but you know, then they went back to kind of their usual style of drafting, where they gave Jizuke, their mid laner, they gave him a champion with more agency and with the ability to make more plays. So stuff like that, I think it's really good to see. If you are a big fan of Evil Geniuses, I'd say this is very very encouraging to see. You know, a team that isn't afraid to experiment a little bit when they already know that they're a strong team. They're playing around with their drafts and seeing maybe what works, maybe what doesn't work. I know it's very late, you know, in the split. Obviously, we're already into the playoffs, but I think that this is a good look from EG, and this is nothing to be concerned about. This one loss to Dignitas, and if my memory serves me correctly, I believe this game ends up being somewhat close. We'll go back through and maybe we'll watch on 2x speed. Some of these fights, some of these results. I mean, you know, you got Aframu on kind of an off-meta, kind of different champion. You know, you got like the Zyrakan bot lane, not super standard. I do like this look for Dig, in which they gave Yasui a champion mid lane that was very mechanical, that he could, you know, kind of like ball out on. I did like, you know, for the most part, this draft from Dig. You can see Impact here, making some nice plays on Gnar. I believe they get this kill, maybe not. It was a nice flash from Fake God. Yeah, just not quite enough. Either way, I mean, you know, this death from Fake God, Fake God, it didn't look that great all season, but even here, you know, he gets 2 flashes out, he gets, you know, the ults out. Like, if you were gonna have to die, it's not that bad, and it actually opened up space on the other side of the map for Yasui on the Aurelia to go bot side and kill Danny. So, not a bad play overall. I'm really, I don't know where I'm at on Fake God right now, you know, in regards to next split, because, you know, we're back in time a little bit here, but obviously, yesterday, Dignitas actually lost a series, and they got knocked out of the playoffs, which is just unfortunate, but also it does make you wonder a little bit, you know, what happened with Saligo? Did we as Dignitas fans and as fans of NA LCS in general, did we get any closure on that? Right now, it doesn't really feel like we did. Maybe there's more information coming out later, but my understanding is that, you know, Saligo, maybe he wasn't performing the most hot. You know, maybe he, whatever, like, couldn't compare to some of the other mid laners. But in general, I thought Saligo was a pretty decent mid laner. You know, if you look at the stats from Yasui and Saligo, I think overall Dignitas performed a lot better with Yasui, or excuse me, with Saligo. But obviously, that was in the era where they had Dardoch. You know, at this moment in time, Dignitas obviously isn't operating with Dardoch. They're operating with Acadian. In full credit to Acadian, let me pause this because I have a point about this. Full credit to Acadian. Acadian played out of his mind this split. Acadian was a fantastic acquisition. Or not acquisition for Dignitas. I think that they had him. He was playing in the academy team. But moving him up, you know, it was fantastic for him because Acadian, I think, was at this point in his career where maybe he didn't have fantastic options. But I can guarantee you, given his performance in the summer split, I can guarantee you that there are teams who are going to be wanting to look into Acadian and say, hey, you know, we thought this guy was maybe had hit his peak, or maybe was a little bit lower in terms of the, you know, best junglers in the league, or, you know, wherever he was. Like, he didn't stand out as much, and he was just basically playing in academy. Well, Acadian came back, and to his credit, I think that he led Dignitas to a fair amount of success this split. Now, was it going to be enough? You know, when you have Fake God and Yasui consistently underperforming in the solo lanes. I don't think it could have ever been enough. I don't think it matters what jungler Dignitas have. I don't think anything, I thought Acadian played well, is what I'm trying to say. Um, my point to why I'm less worried about this game from EG, guys, why I paused the video here. You can see even in this game, even though Dignitas get the win in this game, EG are clearly ahead at a certain point, and maybe that's scary, maybe that's them proving that like they can play around with leads a little bit too much, but we already knew that about EG, right? That is, over aggression has been kind of one of the staples of how EG play as a team, and honestly, I found it a little more interesting to see how Dignitas even came back into this game. I know that they take a couple good fights. I know Yasui, obviously, 3-1-1, he's big now in game, but I believe he was a big part of this victory. So, there's no taking away that accomplishment from him. Was this maybe this was a Baron? Forgive me. Yeah, so this was the Baron fight. Wonderful play from Afromu, from Acadian. The combos came together. The TPs were there. This is just a classic LCS Baron maneuver where your entire team dies. If you guys have been watching LCS for some time, this is definitely not a rare occurrence. But anyways, you can kind of guess how the rest of the game goes. They snowball off the Baron, they get a second Baron. It does take Dignitas a long time to close out this game. This is partially due to the nature of the champions that EG has, but they were able to do it. So you look at this Dig team that gets 3-1 by EG, and then they get knocked down to the lower bracket, and obviously they played their losers round 1 match yesterday. That was Thursday. EG, they got 3-0'd by Immortals. I wanted to take a look at some of the highlights because I really feel like EG as a team has more potential than this. Dignitas. Dignitas as a team has more potential than this. Usually I can edit out mistakes like that, but due to the live presentation, it doesn't really happen. Something really interesting about this game, actually, let me go back into the draft. Maybe they won't show? Okay, they show. So, really interesting stuff here from Dignitas for multiple reasons. If we want to get in and analyze the draft a little bit, why don't we? I'm trying to figure out who is blue side here. I wonder if this will show me. These guys are blue side, okay. So Dignitas is blue side in this scenario. And the priority on some of their champions, like, it looks really interesting to me. Instead of banning by the meta, they went and banned things that Immortals had priority on, right? So the Immortals Draven, that's been a staple. The Thresh has been a staple. You've seen a lot of insanity on the LeBlanc. I think it was an interesting way to come into this series. Obviously, they were able to grab the Xin Zhao for Acadian in the jungle, and Xin Zhao, obviously a champion with plenty of priority right now. Probably one of the strongest junglers on the patch that they're playing the playoffs in. I know recently, actually this week, Wednesday, that patch rolled in where he got the -2 to his base AD. So that was something big to think about. But regardless, in his current state, I think we're going to keep seeing a lot of Zins out in the playoffs. So they take the Xin. These guys respond with Lucian, Zac, and Zac was just such an interesting pick here. I have to wonder if this is the influence of Dardoch in that assistant coach position. Because obviously Dardoch is the assistant coach as of now, as of Immortals. It's very funny, he left Dig and he went to Immortals, and Immortals knocked him out, knocked Dig out, that is. So regardless, these guys open with Xin. They take Lucian, Zac out. I will say, actually, the bans for Immortals, I think, were very well done. They showed a great understanding of what Dig, can do. And this is almost a benefit, I think, of being this team in the lower bracket, is that you got to watch whoever you're going to play a series, right? So Immortals got to watch Dignitas lose, and they looked at probably the one game that Dignitas won and went, huh, okay. Well, they had Aurelia, they had Renekton. They put Yasui on these champions that can make plays in the mid lane that are mechanically intensive, and Fake God tends to look a lot better on things like the Renekton, things that can kind of go in. So I'm pretty sure that's why they banned that stuff out. I think the Samira and Ezreal bans here were really interesting, but Leona Samira, kind of a strong lane, and if you are drafting stuff, like I believe it was the Syndra bot lane this game with the Rakan, So it was like a really interesting look from them. This was like a very inspired draft, I thought, coming out from the side of IMT. Let me just double check. Was it Lucian bot? Okay, so it was Raze on the bot lane Syndra, which was just absolutely fantastic. Like, really interesting stuff, and different looks. One thing that I will say I heavily disagreed with from the Dignitas draft was them taking the Rise. I don't know where this priority on Rise came from. I feel like I've only seen I don't even know if I've seen Yasui on Rise. Just really, really interesting stuff. I'm not exactly sure what made them kind of come up with that, but that was, the angle that they decided to go with in terms of the drafting. I think the rest of this draft is honestly fine. It's just the Rise looks so lackluster here, and Immortals have all of these tools just to, the Zac, the Lucian, the Viego, they all kind of go in together with the Rakan. And then like the Syndra bot lane is just something that you don't see a lot, but clearly it worked in this case. So I did want to go ahead and take a look at the replay. I remember this dive on the top lane, decently well done. Nothing went wrong as far as I can remember. Yeah, you even get the TP there from Insanity, so he TPs on up just to try and make something happen. I was really surprised though that was like the extent of the aggression from Dignitas. They gave themselves a little bit of a gold lead, and their laning stage overall went well, which is sort of what you would expect given how their comp works. Zac is a champion that, to my understanding, at least in the Xin Zhao matchup, I'm a plat jungler. I could be wrong on this, but I feel like Xin Zhao has greater capability to be aggressive, when he's against the Zac. But like, you see Immortals play kind of a slow early game, and then slowly but surely they just start taking over basically the entire map, and they really expose, I think, a lot of the weaknesses of Dignitas as a whole. Dig were able to make things happen in the early game, but like, I think it was this Zac pick in particular just made so many plays and made this early game, or I guess mid-game, it made it so much more manageable for Immortals to handle as a team, while the Syndra was scaling. Like, you can see just the way that they're taking these team fights, like, they look like they're just better as a team. They are literally just a better team. Like, if Yasui is on something that can go in with this team, maybe this is easier. Maybe the Sylas here could have been an angle. I'm not entirely sure. I think a lot of the reason why they took the Rise was probably something to do with the Lucian matchup. I believe Rise does like acceptably well, and I think a lot of the champions that Yasui likes to play do get bullied out by the Lucian. But again, I mean, that's just on Dignitas for not preparing quite as well as they could have, and not coming into the series with maybe as good of a plan as they should have. So obviously, some of this stuff is kind of tough to watch here. You can see Acadian securing the Drake, and then the boys at this point in time, Immortals are just absolutely running down Dig. This game will go on for quite some time, but you as the viewer know that this is just over. So a very simplistic game 1 win for Immortals. Game 2, we can talk about the draft a little bit. Let's go ahead. Let me go back. Alright, so going over the draft here, I believe Immortals is blue side this game. Let me just double check on that. Okay, so Dig is actually blue side again. Okay, so Dig with a very similar opening, opting to ban Lucian and Syndra out. I believe there were other bans in the previous game. The exact same bans, more or less, from Immortals, though. The second stage bans are a little bit different, but they are still targeted top laners. It's important to note that they actually did, on Dignitas, last ban out the Rise. And this is what I was talking about. Like, I wanted to see something for Yasui that actually just, like, can go in a little bit more with the team. So, like, they go back to the Rakan, they have Xin Zhao, they have Sylas, they have champions that can go in. And at its core, when Dig was doing well, as someone who watched a lot of their games, they did well, like, when they were able to come online early, have a very strong, like, mid-game team fight, and basically just out-team fight other teams. I think that they lost some of that direction when Dardoch left the team, because you can see that, like, they get into a certain point in the game, and then it feels like they just kind of lose some of what they lose some of their, like, their team focus. Like, they aren't quite as composed, or not, like, composed, but they aren't all quite on the same page, it feels like. The macro is, like, a little bit lacking. Credit to Acadian, because it seems like he's doing what he can, and Acadian has managed to, in a lot of their games this season, build significant leads for them. But it is just difficult when you're up against a team like Immortals. Immortals, let me remind you, Immortals is a team that has had so long to grow and to build their strategies. You know, they have a lot of proficiency playing around with like the Thresh champ, playing around with the LeBlanc champ, and you could see Immortals in this draft. You know, the Thresh wasn't banned out, the LeBlanc wasn't banned out. So what do? You know, their R1, their R1, R2 takes are LeBlanc and Viego. Like they take the champions with priority. They have a very strong understanding of how that they want to draft against Dignitas, and it just seems like overall they're so much more prepared for the series. The answer I want to note to the Tahm Kench top lane. Revenge, by the way, has been smurfing out of his mind on Tahm Kench. The answer that Dignitas proposed was the Mordekaiser, and I guess we can go ahead and watch this. I don't entirely remember how bad the lane was, but at this current state in time, it seems like Tahm Kench has gotten through the lane just fine, you know, 39 to 42 CS, gets back up just fine. So maybe Fake God has an easier time top lane. I say that, maybe Fake God actually gets solo killed here. I really don't remember as much as series as I thought I did. Okay, almost. Revenge just with a lot of comfortability on the Tahm Kench champ, and with, you know, where Tahm Kench is on the patch that they're playing the LCS in, like Tahm Kench is just such a strong champ. Being able to do this when they had the counter pick, that was literally their last picked champ, and you just ball out on their top laner. I like Fake God. I like him as a player. I like him, you know, from what I can tell as a person, he seems like a nice guy. But the Tahm Kench, like, you cannot just be getting balled out this hard on, basically. Like, Revenge just looked so much better in every, like, aspect of the game. You just, honestly, I think they needed to take out the Tahm Kench. You cannot let Revenge get his Tahm Kench, and I wonder if going forward that will continue to be the case for teams against Immortals. Like, you have a lot of things to ban out. You kind of have to ban out the Draven if you don't have, like, a strong understanding of how you want to play against it. You probably want to ban out the Thresh, because it works so well with the Aphelios, it works so well with the Draven. You probably want to ban out the LeBlanc, because it's such an X-Factor pick. It is such a, not like a random champion, but it's just not one that you see a ton of in the LCS. Insanity just kind of has his practice on it, and you can see in moments like this, actually, it's not going to be this one, it's going to be one from later in the game. He makes really, really good use of the champion's ability to evade and just to stay alive. Definitely was a massive problem for Dignitas within this game, if I recall correctly. And you can see here the ridiculousness of Tahm Kench. You know, this is a very poorly planned dive, I think, from Dig. And this is really what the game devolves into. Dignitas continues to go for plays like this, and they just continue to not work out for them in this game, and really in this series. Game 3 didn't look much better than this. This is Immortals. They're up so much gold, you know, 4.4k at what, 16 minutes in the game. You know, they will find opportunities, I think. I wonder if, I don't remember if Raze even dies here. He has Flash. Yeah, I think they even get to save off on Raze, so like, the team play just looks so much more clean on Immortals at this point in time. And I really think, like, Immortals just looks so clean in this series. They look like just such a better team, honestly. Yeah, I think this is the moment. Yeah. So if we go back here, this is what I was looking for earlier. Insanity is just going to waste so much time of Yusui. I think at one point he's going to have like 3 people chasing him, and he just like survives it all, basically. Really, really funny stuff to watch, because like you can see there's a skirmish breaking out down here, and Insanity's just like fucking walking away. You know, excuse the language, but like, I don't know. This stuff from Dig is just like, who is making this call? Like, you guys did this for a Thresh kill. There's a super fed Viego, there's a super fed Aphelios. The Aphelios is, you know, getting closer to 3 items, almost into Thanos mode. And this is, to be fair, this is some of the limitation of the draft from Dignitas, where your team comp naturally, like, Xayah scales, but I don't think she actually outscales Aphelios. You definitely need to not be like this far behind. But you know, trying to get Xayah involved in plays like this, as opposed to trying to get the Mordekaiser, well, trying to get the Silas, or even the Mordekaiser, even though they're champs that naturally don't want to do this stuff as much. Like, if you're trying to make these proactive movements, why are you bringing Xayah? Is it not fine to just, I mean, like, regardless, the movements that they're making don't entirely make a ton of sense to me as the spectator and as someone who's personally like I'm playing a lot of comp league right now. You know, and I won't say obviously I'm not nearly as good at the game as these guys are, but all I'm trying to say is that they look a little disheveled. They look a little like they got pieced apart in this series by IMT. Like they got figured out. IMT said this is how they want to play. These are their champions, and they just owned the map way harder. We can see here in the replay they're going to close out the game pretty soon here, and Revenge just landing insane knockups every single stage of the game. There was one under the tier 1 tower mid, I believe, where he like went around and like knocked up 2 people. Just looks way too good on the Tom Kench. So they're going to close out that game and then go ahead and take a look at the draft for game 3. I'm just checking. So IMT is going to be a blue side this game. And let's go ahead and check out the draft. Oops, we're halfway. Okay, so Dig this game opt to ban the Xin Zhao. That tells me that they're not going to pick it. They don't want to give the blue side, you know, it's blue side, so they didn't want to give blue one Xin Zhao. That was where their priority was. Okay, so they ban out the Xin Zhao, they ban out the Lucian and Syndra, obviously problematic champions. On the other side, IMT sticking with similar bans, although they opt to ban out the Diana this time instead of, what was the champion they banned before? Let me go back. Just going back, okay. Just a moment here, guys. Okay, so before it was the Callista. So IMT are going to let the Callista in for game 3. In Dig, I don't think actually end up taking it. Let me see. Yeah, so they let the Callista in. Really interesting, blue 1 Camille. So they have kind of a strategy here with Camille, or they feel comfortable picking it for whatever reason. I mean, I think at this point in time, Revenge is just saying, like, alright, guys, like, just give me Camille. I'm going to ball out, you know. And you do have synergy here. I think Camille works fantastically well with both Ziggs and Twisted Fate, you know, because you cage them in, and then you give time for TF to rotate in and find his kills. As for the Ziggs, you know, you can drop the R, and then Ziggs throws, you know, his ult from all the way over there. Nowhere, you know, where they can run, and I think you do see that maybe once or twice in this game. As for the Dignitas draft, I would say Gnar Thresh is a really odd opening. Maybe Fate God felt confident in the Gnar matchup against the Camille. Obviously, you know it's Camille top. It's not going to be Camille mid or like Camille jungle or something. So that's why I think blue 1 Camille was like a little odd. I think the Viego is probably a champ you could take earlier, you know, because of priority. Or if it were me, in my comp leagues right now, my team's, well, pretty much every single team has been locking Ziggs a lot. Ziggs is a very safe laner. He's one of the best ADCs in the game right now. And honestly, theoretically, the answer to Ziggs is supposed to be the Thresh Aphelios thing, because Aphelios can kind of farm the lane, and even though Ziggs will like push it in, like Aphelios, like Ziggs is not an aggro laner, so you need to send a champion there. Vayne apparently is the one that has the highest win rate, but I don't know if they're really gonna pick Vayne in LCS. Vayne is theoretically the answer to Ziggs. You need to send a champion that's going to farm that lane, be able to ideally hold the tower against Ziggs, and then scale into the later game. You can see here though, the locks were really interesting. Let me just make sure that they haven't swapped this around. Champ select. So it looks like this was the order. Let me see. Okay. So actually, let me correct that. So it was the Viego Ziggs opener. Way better looks. So blue 1 Viego, you respond with Thresh Aphelios. That's a strong lane. And then you take the Ziggs because, well, whatever they're going to play Aphelios, we can play Ziggs. Ziggs is safe. Ziggs Nautilus works really well together in tandem. Nautilus, you know, able to roam the map, able to make things happen. Not sure if that really ended up happening in this game, but theoretically, you know, you can send champions like Nautilus or Drescher on the map. You know, they're gonna respond with the Gragas here. Gragas is in a kind of a weird spot in the jungle, but I do like him against Viego. You know, he has CC, and I think his ult has kind of a neat mechanic with like what Viego wants to do in the team fight, or not mechanic, but interaction, where like you know, if Viego ult in, you know, theoretically you can either ult him in, or ult him away from someone, or you know, he's very squishy. So if you can ult him into your team and keep him CC'd with your E, a lot of burst damage from Gragas, like those are all the things that Viego really hates dealing with. And the mechanic I really like is where if Viego goes to take a body, you can theoretically ult him away and then use that opportunity to burst him and prevent him from getting his resets off. Really, really good if you can get it off. Interesting bans though for this game from Immortals. You can see they actually opted for the Lee Sin ban as well as the Yasuo ban, so kind of odd stuff. But Yasuo is something you do need to be wary of. I believe Yasui did play it at least once, and it does have that obvious synergy with Gragas when with the knockout from the Gragas R. So after the Gragas is picked, you know, you go into the second phase of the bans. The Jace was taken out, was taken out. They wanted to make sure. I believe Jace is a really tough matchup for Gnar. So they wanted to make sure I was banned out. They also banned out the Insanity of LeBlanc. LeBlanc would have been pretty decent here, but you know, Insanity's just gonna go to the TF instead. As you can see, they picked last. And the last pick to top it off, which was the most interesting, from Dig, they actually locked the Qiyana here. And I think Qiyana is a really interesting take and a really interesting answer to the problem that IMT like has posed, or you know, like IMT is basically saying, here's our draft, here's what it wants to do, what is your answer? And Qiyana being the answer here, I don't like theoretically I don't hate this. I think it does make the damage split a little AD heavy in terms of that makes it easier for IMT to itemize, but you know, especially like a champ like most of these champs aren't really going to be building armor, so it's pretty much fine in like a non-factor. You just need something that can come online early. I think it really just depends on how the lane matchup actually goes for Qiyana, and I'm not a Qiyana player, so I don't know if maybe TF is like this super easy Qiyana matchup, but they needed Qiyana to get an early lead, and I believe to his credit, Yasui actually does do that this game. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay still. We'll take a look at kind of how the fights went. I believe this does result in a kill early on here. Yeah, there's the TP in from Insanity. Fake got under his tower. Does not have the Rage meter 2 stacked up, and the stun's going to be there from Revenge. Very simple kill for them. And, you know, just well played overall. So they do get off to, like, kind of this early lead, but you can see Qiyana doing well enough in her lane. Aframu and Acadian on the roam looking for make opportunities happen. The Thresh Lantern there gives Qiyana the added mobility. They find a kill. This fight, though, just so split up. Raze with a fantastic flash over the wall. Keeps him alive for a little bit longer on the Ziggs, but it just really wasn't enough there. Qiyana, I believe, gets 6 out of this fight, too, so I can't remember if she gets ult off. Doesn't look like she does. Yeah, I don't think she... Oh, yeah, she kind of whiffs it. So unfortunate for her. But, you know, just such a messy fight in the jungle. And at the same time, like, even though this theoretically looks like, oh, like, this is messy, this is bad, this is what Dignitas is good at. Raze actually TVs back in on the Viego and ints away a kill just to grab the Afromu Thresh. Really interesting gameplay there. But, you know, this game started well for Dig. The question is, you know, how does their lineup, like, how do they keep the success going? Because Immortals lineup is definitely better at coming online in the mid-game. And you can see Destiny with a fantastic hook. Revenge is kind of there, looking for the kill on Acadian. I think he might just ult Neo here. Yeah, it looks like he does. This was the game I definitely paid the least attention to. Yeah, so he gets the bounty off of Neo, which is just super tragic, and, you know, forces his own use. So, overall, fantastic play from Revenge to be there and, you know, to use his spells accordingly. And then Neo is just getting Ziggs ulted under tower and Insanity ulted, and it's just... You know, TF Ziggs ult, not fun, and Xerxes, if I recall correctly, Xerxes gets absolutely huge on Viego. I think he gets like, I think he goes like 8-1 this game or something. It definitely doesn't feel good to watch. You see, they're trying to make proactive plays here, like the Gragas is trying to go in, but there is so much like CC and stupid little like roots and stuns. Yasui with a fantastic ult there against the wall, by the way. I did want to point that out. But I think he does get taken down here by Revenge. Maybe? Okay, the flash out. Never mind. Yeah, like you can see Yasui's comfort on a champion like Qiyana. It's clear, you know, Qiyana's strong right now. He's been playing it probably a lot in solo queue. So it's not like he's playing poorly. I mean, even that looked like it was a decent play. But like, I think it's hard for Qiyana to do what she needs to do with this much like CC in this game. Not to mention just like the AoE damage, you know. TF has a fair amount of AoE damage, as does Ziggs, and as does even Nautilus. You know, Nautilus has some AoE damage, so her camouflage means less. So it's like you're getting CC'd, you have to camouflage, and man, look at that play by Fake God. Looked like he was almost able to turn that kill around, but Revenge just grabs it anyways. I think that I'm really not sure what kind of top laner Dignitas needed for this game, but definitely something that does like stronger in the lane against Camille, because Camille just felt like she balled out a little bit too hard on this game for my own taste. Yeah, so you can see here Immortals just continuing to push their advantage. They know that they're balling out on the game now. The gold lead is, you know, it's not the most massive that we've ever seen, but obviously it's significant, and the tempo lead is really what's more important here. You can talk about gold lead all you want, you know, but tempo does matter actually a significant amount. So when you have like just things going right for you, like, you know, like the early game went decently for Dig. They were able to make plays. They got the Aphelios ahead, and then Immortals kind of countered right back with that, and they started getting back into their groove, making things happen. So like the tempo really just shifted all the way around. You can see Aframu. Honestly, I thought this game on Thresh, like, even though that play right there looks kind of rough for him, I didn't think this was the worst Aframu Thresh game. I don't know. For the amount, like, for how early that they took it in the draft, I think, like, you have to give them credit for that. Like, whenever you're taking your support pick earlier, it can be a little bit rough. I love this as well from Dig. Like, when they're giving from Immortals, like, they gave objectives at certain points in the game because, like, they knew they could get more elsewhere in the map. I don't know, like starting Baron here, there are certain maneuvers where it feels like Dig just like doesn't know what they want to do. Like, you know, starting the Baron here and like taking the fight theoretically really isn't that bad. It's just kind of a weird move when you're not committing to things. Like, you can see how they're like walking out of the pit, like they want to find the fight, and it's so obvious. So Immortals knows all that they have to do here is pick, is try and poke and look for that pick eventually, because they are getting the Drake on the other side of the map, and like Dig knows that they need to trade for Baron here, because like they're not going to get soul, whatever, like they don't want to take the 5v5 fight. They are down gold, but the thing is, Immortals draft is pretty dang good at doing this. Like, look at the amount of damage just from that Zigzal. And then Xerxes comes in and smites the Baron. Like, one of the biggest plays of this series that I would say. He even gets out too, I believe, with the flash, at least temporarily. But like, I don't know, this play was just so monumental, and it really made everything that Dig sacrificed just to get this Baron, like, it just ruined it all, you know? Like, you're thinking, okay, at least we get a Baron here, maybe we leave out the other side. Doesn't end up happening. Revenge comes in with the TP, he finds the ult. I will say Yusui had a decent ult here and stunned a few people, but Naru doesn't even have his rage up. Like, he's gonna get ult off way too late. There's no follow-up. Neo is already dead at this point. It's like, this game's all but done, and Immortals knows this. I think the real thing to think about now is, like, what does the future for Dignitas look like? I'm really not too sure. I think in the offseason we could see some roster moves. You know, when we started this season, I think before, even like last year, Dig had said that they were trying to build their roster around Dardoch. Excuse me. Goodness. So Dig had said that they were trying to build their roster around Dardoch, and then obviously they kicked him later in the season. That didn't work out exactly how you would want it to. You know, they had a bit of a bounce back. I think building around Acadian wouldn't be a horrible thing to do. I think you do, if it were me, if I was the, you know, manager of Dignitas, I would really look at removing Yusui. Obviously, Yusui is not a player that has had a lot of success in his past. You know, and I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Yusui hater. I do think though that Yusui is probably a player that maybe needs a little more time in Academy. You know, his career doesn't look that great. He hasn't really ever looked that great as far as I can know, and as far as I can tell. You know, even just you can tell a little bit of the story from the results. You know, I have an appreciation for anyone that's trying to make it, but right now, that I think that they need to really consider who to build their roster around and how to change things up on the side of Dignitas. With that, I think we move on to talking about the next matchups. We have about 15 minutes left in the stream. We've been going for, good lord, we've been going for 45 minutes. It has been a grind so far, but we will continue. So, on to the next matchups for this weekend. We can talk about them a little bit. As you can see, currently Cloud9 against Golden Guardians is occurring. I will not click on it. I think that there are rules against co-streaming stuff, unfortunately. But my predictions, we can talk about it just a little bit. Go on to the next song here. The song's not too crazy for me. Oh, hey, that's isn't that a replay? Oh, well, whatever. I like this one. Going on. Okay. So Cloud9 is going to play Golden Guardians in a BO5. Let's look at where both these teams ended up. If you look here and you look here, some of this stuff tells a story. But I will say, out of all these teams at the bottom, Golden Guardians might actually be better than Dignitas. I don't think they're better than Immortals, but I will say they've had wins throughout the split that didn't look horrible. When they acquired Licorice, the team really felt like it made a turn for the better. That all being said, Licorice, I don't know, he kind of joined the team, he started popping off, and then they started struggling a little bit in regards to, their matches. You can see the records here. They lost to TO, they lost to TSM, they lost to CLG. That really can't happen. Who else did they lose to? Oh, they won a game against EG, won a game against TL. There was some hope there. Lost to TSM, whatever. Won a game against 100 Thieves, lost to EG, Dig. Some of these losses, maybe not the biggest deal in the world, but I will say, from a team perspective, it doesn't give you a lot of confidence when your team is this inconsistent. So when you're losing games to teams like CLG, it's really not a good look. CLG didn't even make it into the playoffs as far as I recall. They went 7-20 throughout the summer split, them along with FlyQuest, I believe. Just didn't make it, so it makes you wonder, what the hell is going on here with this team? Does this team have some kind of spark? Do they have some kind of shining light to look forward or towards? I think it just is Licorice. Licorice, along with, I would say, maybe Ablaze Olive, have really been the two key points for this team. I know Stixay in the past was looked at as a pretty solid ADC. I haven't seen too much from him. I don't think he's been briefing the team, but really he hasn't stood out all that much to me. Really the only player on the team, like I said, who was standing out to me was Licorice. So I think if you are a Golden Guardians fan, you go in with let's just hope we can use this opportunity to give us some more experience for next season. If you take the win against Cloud9 somehow, it'd be fantastic. But Cloud9 is really the team that we can talk more about. So let's do that. Cloud9 is really, really, really hard to talk about right now. That being said, Cloud9 has had some struggles, as we talked about. King was playing with them for a little bit, and then they went back to Sven June 22nd. They played out the rest of their split, with Sven in his normal spot. I think they've looked very odd, and honestly, you would think, Sven came back from such a long break. Sven's the problem here. That's not it. Perks looks just extremely, extremely inconsistent. Perks really looks like the worst player on this team right now from what I, have seen. Sven and Vulcan have looked alright, except for maybe not the tier or the level of play that you would expect from a team like C9 with their status, but Blabber and Fudge are basically owning, and they're really the shining stars of this team right now. But when you have Perks kind of running it down, it's going to be hard for them. That being said, I don't think Perks has to perform today. I don't think he really performed very well in the series against Team Liquid. As far as I remember, Perks didn't really have a game where he stood out. I know Fudge was basically trying hard to own. But Perks himself just did not look fantastic to me, to to say the least. So I think going into the playoffs, like, will they win today's game? I think 100%. I think they could lose. Excuse me. They could lose 2 games in this series at most. There's no way if they lose 3 games in this series, unless Golden Guardians really smirk their asses off. And I would love to see it. I would really love to see C9 have a big wake-up call and, you know, really reconsider, is Perks worth it, or what are we doing wrong? Are we developing him wrong, or does he just not care? Or is he just going in a slump? Like, I like some of the guys on Cloud9. I'm a big Fudge fan. I'm a decently big Blabber fan, apart from when he, you know, goes for scuttle crabs and he dies. Things like that do happen. Overall, like, I don't hate the organization. I just think for the amount of money that you're putting in, you should really expect results better than this. Them losing to Team Liquid when Team Liquid literally just got Santorin back is a little shocking. It's a little surprising. I think the biggest thing I was surprised about in this series is that, like, Team Liquid won with Sejuani. Like, these picks were a little bit awkward, you know? You had, I mean, it's really just a Sejuani. The Trundle jungle thing is on the come up, but, like, you can see Cloud9 just had no type of plan whatsoever for the Sejuani, because it owned these games so hard both times, like 29 minutes, 27 minutes. It was a strategy that worked really well. Team Liquid obviously sending the Lee Sin mid. We can go ahead and take a look at the replays a little bit, I guess, to finish this off here. Let's take a look. Team Liquid, where are we? There we go. So you can see here Santorin making proactive plays on the Sejuani. Perks gets exposed. Mid lane on the Orianna. Not a great look. Oh, one note of positivity I will say for TL. I've been very negative on them all split long. Basically, I think that not Perks, Jensen. I think Jensen looked like, in this series, I think he's looked a lot better than he has in previous series, basically. You know, like that play right there on Perks, that looks like something out of the old Jensen. These kind of proactive plays where he's just making like these crazy like mechanical outplays and looks like basically an EU mid laner as opposed to an NA one. Let me go ahead and skip through this. Some of these plays aren't very exciting. You know, there are a couple dives, a couple, hey, maybe plays gone wrong. I don't know. It's kind of weird because Tactical, obviously on the Ziggs, is not a champion that you would think of as like a tactical, like owning champ. But you know, Tactical looked like he was basically back in form. You know, Ziggs isn't super hard. I mean, man, look at that play from Jensen, by the way. Even though he does end up dying for it, like he played it pretty decently well there, dodging the ult from the Orianna. By the way, I think that this rendition of or like not rendition, but this TL, when they're in this form and locking in things for Alfara that he can actually carry on, you know, this is what the team is built to do. You know, you put a lot of, like, C9 put a lot of money into Perks for him to own games, and TL kind of did the same thing with Alfara. He was supposed to be one of the best top laners in the league, so when you put him on a champion that he can actually perform on, you know, it's probably ideal if he actually does perform, or if he has the ability to. Taking a look here. Yeah, I mean, looks like they just cleaned up this game one. You know, maybe a little bit messier than you might expect, but not too bad. Yeah, triple kill for Jensen at the end there. Very exciting stuff. Game 2, I believe, goes the way of C9, if I recall correctly. TL. Actually, let me see. No, okay, so game 3 goes their way. Yeah, I mean, TL just have a strong hold on this game. Varus Alistar, maybe not the sickest move of all time. You can see, though, Santorin seems like he just basically balled out this entire game on the Lee Sin. KDA is looking good and making very proactive map movements on the Santorin Lee Sin. I don't know, definitely not a champion that I think of when I think of Santorin, but that's due to I don't have as much experience watching him. I wasn't a big FlyQuest fan in the past. Obviously, though, he's a good jungler and he can clearly play the champion, so helps him to build a huge lead in this game. And really, the biggest point to all of this is just that I'm excited to see Santorin back in form, because he was obviously out of form for quite some time. Yeah, you can see this game looks like TL built up a decent early lead. Kind of an interesting pick for tactical there on the Jinx. Not super typical of what you might expect, but I don't think Jinx is in a bad place right now. I think she's pretty decent. Looks like the early lead wasn't too big though. They might. Yeah, I didn't actually watch too much of the series. I definitely didn't watch game 3. Yeah, so it looks like C9 kind of gave themselves better tools this game to play with agency. Jensen and Jinx, Jensen and Tactical, Syndra and Jinx, you know, these champions take a very long time to come online, so you really need to be able to kind of hemorrhage the bleeding early game, which is weird because, you know, like, they're up 2 Drakes, like, you would expect that things don't go this poorly. Obviously, it looks like the tempo is just too strong. Sven's just kind of smurfing, playing very well on the Varus. And obviously Xin Zhao, a very strong champ in the meta right now, one that Blabber understands very well. So they are able to give themselves kind of an early lead. They even make it close here. You can see they're attempting to ball out in these team fights. And they're taking some wins. You know, they're able to get the kill on Sven. I believe they get this Baron. Yeah, so they do get the Baron. Really interesting stuff. I wonder what happened here. Let me go back to the team fight. Because they had Baron. They were pushing. Maybe just a Drake fight. No, they do get the Drake. Looks like they just walked down mid. Huh. Yeah, I mean, Varus Thresh is one of the strongest bot lanes right now for a reason, and Fudge is pretty huge on the Viego. So Fudge Blabber both got big, and then obviously they're scaling with perks on the rise. So that's kind of how this game went. And then going back to the last game of the series, this was game 4. Oop, bit of an ult there from Santorin. See, he's got the early game gold bounty going on. As a Talia jungle player, I was really excited to see Talia in this game. I personally love the matchup that it has into the Sejuani, but I don't know if this was the best conditions for it. I mean, the champion's just in kind of a weird spot right now, honestly. I think she really could use a rework of some kind, because she is, you know, they've tuned her to be a jungler, but like some of her functions feel a little bit awkward in the jungle. And that's a very long conversation, something to get into later. But honestly, I don't think this game was really Blabber's fault from what I can remember. This was when I did watch the replay of. His champion just takes a while to come online. So you have like this Varus thing that, you know, needs to come online in the mid game, and Blabber's trying to scale on the Talia, so it's just kind of hard to play through. You know, this team, it just definitely feels like, you know, Alphari's too big right now on Jace. And the Shen support seems to have really caught them off guard from poor JJ. I'm a big fan of Shen support in general. I think it's super good. You know, C9 definitely had life in this game. I think if you're a C9 fan watching this, like, it's not all doom and gloom. This TP from Jensen's kind of sus, but I think he does get out. No, he doesn't. Damn. Definitely trying. How do they even close this game out? Just a Baron fight? Looks like they take Baron and then, yeah, that's what happened. That's right. It was the big steal from Santorin on the Sejuani. Just an absolutely massive play. I think Santorin's definitely deserving of the MVP for this series. You know, if not just for that play alone, then obviously, you know, he balled out in the other games as well. So that really gave them just so much tempo in this game. It's very weird to see. I will say, you know, closing thoughts here. I'm curious to see where the support meta continues to go. Obviously, this core JJ Shen support was kind of balling out, but I wonder if it actually gets any more play. These kind of off meta, or like champions that are a little bit forgotten about, tend to work well. You know, when you have someone like Shen, like, you can play the lane a little more passively. Like, he's there with the Ziggs. I wonder if we'll be seeing a return of things like this. Also, the Rakan obviously being picked a lot. I wonder if teams will keep sticking with it or maybe depart from it a little bit. I wonder what the win rate is like. Probably interesting to see. I wonder if champion statistics are there. Where's Rakan? Last thing we're looking at. Rakan. I must have missed him. Okay, so yeah, a decent, what's that, 16 and 15? Sounds like, yeah. You know, these stats aren't looking particularly fantastic for Rakan, but I will say I don't inherently dislike the champ. I think it works well for a lot of teams that have this aggressive playstyle, and there are a lot of great Rakan players in the LCS, so I'd like to see him making his return. It's a little more exciting than some of the standard Nautilus Thresh things we've been seeing. So, closing up on the predictions for this week, well, we didn't really talk too much about TSM Team Liquid. I guess I should have touched on that a little bit more. I think EG will win 3-1 to 100 Thieves, maybe 3-2. I think Team Liquid will... I don't know, this one really could go either way. I think this will be a 3-2 in either direction. It's too close to call between these two teams right now. Maybe Team Liquid in their current form, maybe they 3-2 it, maybe they 3-1 it even. Team Liquid maybe looks a little better. They're off a hot streak after beating C9, and I would have put C9 very similar to TSM. Maybe that's wrong. C9 I think will win this today. If they don't, then who knows what will happen. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you guys for tuning in. That was the first and maybe last. We'll see what things look like ever live stream for PGA Pro Gamer Academy.